Good evening and welcome to the Reston Community Center Board of Governors meeting for November 7th, 2022. The meeting is now called to order. First order of business is approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Next order of business is approval of the October 3rd board minutes.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The next order of business is the approval of the October 3rd board actions.
So moved.
Glasses of board actions.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Next order of business is the chair's remarks. The chair took her flu shot and scheduled to take my booster in a week, but the flu shot is really screwing around with me. So I never had a problem with it before, but I am this time. It was on the eve of my birthday. It was so sad to hear about the passing of Lynn Lillicoff. I have a poem tonight by Mary Rodriguez. It's called Life. Life is full of choices we make, a delicate balance between give and take. Many defining moments shape the person we become. It has nothing to do with where we come from. Trials and triumphs add character to our life. Focusing on the negative will lead to a life of strife. Random acts of kindness help people along the way. We never know what people are going through as they go about their day. There's no sense in living in the past. Rarely do good things ever last. Sometimes you just have to know where to begin to gather the strength that lives within. Each day brings about gladness and sorrow. In times of sadness, remember, there's always tomorrow. I hold tight to the thought of you here with me. Things usually turn out how they are meant to be. Sometimes feeling as if no one cares, walking past strangers, empty stairs. We all get filled with fears and doubts. Have patience and trust good things will come about. Follow life's lessons, they won't steer you wrong. We all want out of life to feel we belong. And a message vote. Next order of business is introduction of visitors.
Well, technically Shane is visiting
Shane is a
this
visitor.
meeting before he takes his.
Right. So would you like to give us some citizen input?
I think we're good.
Very good.
Thank you very much. That was great. Next order of business is the committee reports, and it's the October 3rd Finance Committee meeting.
If you go to the committee reports tab in the binder, you will see the minutes actually written up. Revenue basically is pretty well on schedule. Nothing really particularly out of the ordinary. Everything is pretty much where we expected it to be. Some questions about where things are going to end up, but we'll see when things end up. Sort of how they are relative to various people's prognostications and people's and organizations' prognostications. But basically overall coming along well. With the personnel and operating expenses, probably the biggest thing going on there is that all the numbers are a bit cattywampus because things are being redistributed because of the new cost center. And so we'll see a lot of stuff that's in process of moving from these various cost centers and into the new offsite and collaboration cost center. So as that gets stood up, things are all being flowed into that. So That's probably the biggest thing that we're seeing there. Capital projects, the natatorium stuff is still sort of sitting there until all the roof replacement stuff is completely done. And so that was one of the pieces there. Supervisor Alcorn did have a town hall about the art center, which I'll speak about it when it's time for me to have what we did this month. So I might chime in on that at that time. And probably the other biggest thing is on the solar panels. The vendor came back and said, okay, and here's the price for the solar panels, and the number was not zero. And which might seem odd to mention that, but it's just under the previous paradigm, we were assuming that the cost to install would be zero. Therefore, the ROI was going to be zero, right? Because in terms of time, right? The amount of time to recoup the investment is going to be zero, because immediately you'd be just like raking and gravy, right? But now, with it actually costing money, we will have to sort of look at that, figure out if there's any wiggle room on that, and then evaluate that return on investment and how that balances with our green aspirations, right? How much is it worth it to us to pay for our green aspirations? And so I'm assuming that that's probably more than zero. But it might be.
Our aspirations are greater than zero. Yes.
But it might be less than the amount that it's going to cost. So anyway, so those are probably the biggest things from the Finance Committee report. We suggested that we moved to the full board the transmittal of the memoranda, which the board then subsequently approved at the last meeting. Any questions on the Finance Committee meeting report? Anything notable that I left out?
Move to accept the report.
I should also note that I neglected to put the Preference Poll Committee report on the agenda, and that report is included in the committee reports.
Yep.
And in the absence of Bill Penniman, I just call your attention to it. Nothing unusual occurred, and the results are provided, the data breakdowns provided. I think, once again, for a poll that was uncontested, it still is a healthy participation level. Some of the trends that we've observed over the past continue to be the case. I don't think there were any things coming out of this year's events that would recommend changes to our processes. So Bill suggested we proceed on the same basis as we set out last year. We'll again look at next year if there are all incumbents running. If you recall from last year, what we described doing in that case is just eliminating the orientation meeting and the candidate forum. But we'll leave that decision for the Preference Poll Committee to make next year in front of the preference poll filing period.
And though that turnout in 22182, we still need to figure out how to crack that nut. 0% turnout from 22182.
I think that's just that's Vienna, and I think it's just an anomaly of the mailing list that it's included.
All right, because I'm just saying, if we could just get one, then it could lead to the beginning, because that would immediately have it over 10%, and that would put it in the first place. We can move that. But yeah, but keeping everything so the processes consistent, including the option based on the potential of having all incumbents makes sense.
But how did that get in the poll? Because they're
It's
not
just
in
a
our...
stray address situation in the mailing they report based on the address list poll that we sent to them, so it's just something that was included in it.
Or,
But we'll watch that next year. So in addition to acceptance of the Finance Committee report, the board should vote on accepting the preference poll committee report.
should it be two separate motions, or should we get a second on Bill's motion? and
Well,
vote
we
on
have
it?
to, because we're in the
Well,
first.
just make a motion to accept the committee reports.
Okay.
Move we accept the committee report.
Bill did.
Oh,
You second? Okay.
You second, okay. All, it's been moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, next is the board member input on activities attended. And since,
Sure. Yeah, since I teased it. Maybe.
yeah, so you. go first.
So I'll take these in chronological order. By the way, the Arts Center session, I really went to with the thinking of A, I want to listen, and B, maybe it'll be something I can chime in on to clarify, because I figured Walter is not there to listen to me. But sure enough, a couple things came up that I felt really sort of required some clarification. We did have a fair number of people who were there who were sort of pushing back on the existence of the Art Center as the option for the proffer. And I think I did clarify stuff about how much of our taxes come from residential, because people were saying things that seemed to imply that they didn't understand that. Oh, and as well as sort of when you look through the report that Lila and team made about how much it costs for us to service the programs that we have here, you probably don't double that if you double our capacity, because there's a lot of economies of scale, and people didn't seem to understand that in some of the comments that they were making. And that was, lovely, but I get that the real pivot in the conversation came when someone from county staff mentioned that any bonds that are brought up relevant to this would not be tax district 5 bonds, they would be general bonds. And as Dick just had this aha moment, everyone in the room had this aha moment as well, when they're like, wait, so you're saying that it wouldn't all just fall on tax district 5 shoulders, it would fall on the entire county shoulders? And yes, the answer is that if any bonds are issued, they would be general obligation bonds, because that's the way things work.
And that wasn't just a county staff member, that was the county debt manager, Joe LaHaye.
I knew that you could clarify his role.
The debt manager?
Yeah, right. So,
Wow, very important
right.
versus big man.
And so that, I think that helped to shift a lot of people's thinking. In some cases, it meant that when they wanted to complain about the existence of the Art Center, they had to choose a different tack. But other people thought, oh, well, then that's my concern, and so maybe we can move forward. Anyway, so it was a really good session to hear from people from various art organizations, as well as the constituents who are have their concerns and their hopes and aspirations. So anyway, so that was really good. I also went to, and this was not really an RCC thing, but I went to this Workforce Innovation Hub opening, actually Workforce Innovation Skills Hub opening in the Hydla Valley Community Center. Supervisor Rodney Lusk was instrumental in opening, and that was really amazing. I will call it connected because it was in a community center, and we're in a community center, so call it a connection, because they're really making a bridge between the people in their community and workforce preparation, skills training, connections to trades, and training for those trades and apprenticeships and stuff. The stuff that they're doing there looks really amazing, and I am hopeful that Supervisor Alcorn will be trying to figure out how do we do something like that in this area. It probably doesn't work here, but maybe it does, and maybe it's somewhere near here. Maybe we could cook into
It
it.
certainly has been talked about in terms of one aspect of the digital media layer of programming potential, in that arts venue is to do job training and specifically in digital media kinds of skills and employment, and as well as technical theater and other kinds of related.
Yeah. So it was. If you get a chance to learn more about the Workforce Innovation Skills Hub, Rodney Lusk has a bunch of it on his website. It's about it, but really interesting thing. Along with Lisa, I was at the Pantry 0.5K, and it was grueling, but luckily I had done the training. Right, if you put in the training, then you get to reap the benefits. And so that was really good. The weather was spectacular. The turnout was great. Anyway, so that was really, really good. And then Frank, a couple weekends ago, first of all, I've been doing a lot of marching band stuff. Marching band, the finale was on Friday, essentially the last home game. But in amongst all of that was a whole bunch of homecoming stuff. And homecoming was interesting for me because it was the last homecoming parade for my kids, because it was Maggie's last homecoming parade. And that was good, but I wasn't with the band because the 40th reunion for my class from South Lakes was also in the parade, and they were in my Jeep, right? So I was the float, right?
Yeah.
But I also saw everyone from RCC who was with the RCC folk. We were right next to each other.
Aww.
And so it was great getting a chance to chat with the RCC folks. I know that they were tossing out candy with QR codes to entice people to apply to work on the aquatic staff. And so that was really good. So homecoming was great. It was great having RCC as part of that. And my daughter was here working early. I think she was doing South Lakes swim team tryouts, and she's one of the managers. So so my family has been here today. That's it.
Lots of business.
There you go.
Lisa?
Sorry, I'm munching here. I did it with, like Paul said, do it your way, 0.5K, it was fun, great activity, always lots of people there. I attended the Arts Fairfax, which was wonderful.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I
you
was
were
there
there
too.
Well, that's always wonderful to, my parents always introduced me to the arts throughout my life growing up, but to see the different types of art. And they did, we always think, oh yeah, that's art too, but it's always neat to see the contributions of the people who are awarded. And it was so neat to see our own Mark Boucher get it. It was great. It was great. So it was nice to see him there. And it was well attended. And what else did I? I'm trying to think. There's one. I mean, there was some activity with the rest of the Historic Trust, and for many of us, it was very sad to hear about when this is so quick. I'm just not expecting that. So that was very hard to hear. And by next month, I will be able to give you a report on the Southgate. Kathy, it's a new name, Kathy Hedges Southgate Community Center. I have not been able to make their meetings, so that's why you're not getting a report. That's just, there's always a conflict, but I've switched my schedule, so I'll be able to update you next week, and that's kind of what I've been doing.
This month, my activities have been teaching an OLLI course. It's my course on the history of immigration in the United States. And I was amazed how many people came, because I refused to do video. I wanted face to face. In person. And my last lecture was tomorrow. And it's taken a lot of time, but it's been great. And before that, we had my 80th birthday, and I'm in step with Ben. And we had Marion's brother and his wife from England, and Judy, our daughter, from Seattle, and we had a grand old time.
As Johnny Depp would say, a grand old flag. Okay, I was at whatever meeting, you know, I was there, you saw it. Okay, now we will adjourn the rest of the Community Center Board of 2021-2022. And then we do musical chairs. Everybody stands up, stands
Well,
up.
actually, I think it's.
You stand, I mean, turn around and sit down. Okay.
Shane will get a nameplate.
Yeah, it's, I got it out. Yes, definitely better. Sorry.
Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. So now as acting chair, I welcome the returning members and the newest member. Now, next will be the nominating committee, proposed officer of slate.
And Bill and Vicki apologized for not being able to attend this evening, but submitted the report in your committee reports binder. So we need a motion.
I move that we accept the slate as presented.
A second.
It's been moved in second. That the slate as
Anyone
Anybody
wanna
else?
make a contested,
How about you challenge that chair position?
It's in the front of the committee report.
oh, it's in the room, yeah.
It's a purple, has a purple.
There you go, a nominee.
Yeah.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'll bet it does.
Okay. So,
Do we vote on
that's,
that?
vote.
yeah, yes, I have to check off that we looked at the nominating for proposed officer slate. Now, the election and seating of the board.
Well, you have
We have to vote, we
on
have to
the
vote on
motion.
that, Beth.
Okay.
It was
It
already
was
seconded.
moved by Paul, seconded by Shane,
Shane.
to accept the slate as presented.
This is just moved between the people. Okay. It's been moved to second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, next order of business is the election and seating of the board chair.
Which we just did.
We just got up and did that.
Mhm.
And next is the seating of the new board officers. We just got up and,
Yeah,
Did that too.
I think we're set.
yes. Okay, and next order of business is the new chair's remarks. Just want to say welcome to Shane.
Thank you.
And, not that, we're running away, but please bring some more young people along. Because those with 8s in front of our number would like to be moving on. But we're glad to have you here and jump right in. And if you have any suggestions or ideas of what committees you want to be on before we make up that list, let us know. So we can take them into consideration. I have no other remarks. I've said a lot of words. Next order of business is the executive director's report.
Okay, well, we are still in process on the security camera replacement project. Both facilities, we're waiting for some of those supply chain afflicted parts to finish this, this project. We're close. The roof replacement is also complete with just a couple of things still to be cleaned up. Solar panels cost exploration continues, and we continue to coordinate that with Camby Zagazi in the Office of Environmental and Energy Coordination, and with the Director of the Department of Procurement and Materials Management.
Excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
when this came up last time, the 200,000. I was just wondering, why, what happened? When we thought we were gonna get it
right.
For free and
Right.
it wasn't.
Well, a couple of things happened. The power sharing cost distribution agreement changed. And so what they did was they came out and surveyed the roof location, and they looked at the potential for the company installing the panels to profit, to benefit from the amount of power that would be generated, that would be down to them. And to be frank, we're not going to be able to generate a lot of power. There's an awful lot of shade, and the only places there's enough sunlight to even be considered are the roof sections over these meeting rooms, and so it's just not as cost effective for the panel providers. And then way back in the beginning, when we first entered into these conversations, we were approached by a company through Bill Penniman's travels in Charlottesville, and that was sort of at the beginning of the exploration in Virginia of the possibility of using solar power, and that company was relying on federal tax incentives to make that an attractive proposition on one hand, and on the other hand, that company was eager to do it because they thought that would allow them entree into the whole Fairfax County market. So basically, between that moment in time and actually Fairfax County developing the RFP and issuing the agreements with the various providers, to make a long story short, the market changed, and the reward structure isn't there for this company unless they just do it on a fee-for-service basis. So Camby's is going to have an assessment done for us of what the long-term possible benefit would be from a conservation perspective and from any kind of possible savings to our power bill, which I expect to be negligible.
Right,
Yeah.
because what makes it less attractive to them is the same thing that will make it not have as big an impact as we want, because the southern facing part that has, minimal tree cover for us is minimal.
Right.
So what seemed to be too good to be true was, in fact, too good
You know,
to be true.
well, I would venture to say that there was a very short window of time when the interest from this Secure Futures company in Charlottesville was sufficiently high that they would have swallowed the cost for the solar panels. And this was also before the pandemic, so you didn't have the same supply chain issues. There were cheap solar panels coming from China on a pretty low cost basis. I think just market conditions changed. Yeah. But the county is going to proceed with solar in places where there's a lot of sun and it'll make sense. Yeah. In terms of our equity pillar, there have been a number of events. I'm very pleased with how the Offsite and Collaboration Department is proceeding in terms of really strengthening our relationship to Opportunity Neighborhoods. Many programs going on there now, and they went on this pair of outreach experiences that they try to time in front of our upcoming enrollment period, so they can talk about the fee waiver program and ways that that fee waiver program can help families served by the Opportunity Neighborhood Cornerstones community. And they've made a lot of suggestions, so we're going to look at the programming suggestions and input that we got to see how we can address those. You may recall that the women-only swim time came about as a community input, community suggestion from those outreach experiences. Yes.
Thank you.
The Darden Jazz Series is phenomenally successful, largely because of its scheduling into a happy hour format, and also
Makes sense.
also the beautiful weather in October, happily, on the Thursdays when that's been going on. The silent dance party, which, you know, had never been done before, and on top of never having done it before, we also had to reschedule it because of weather. But more than 200 people showed up, and we got a lot of positive feedback from that. People really want us to do that again. Speaking of the Kathy Hudgens Community Center, the Southgate Community Day is an event we support annually, and that drew a very large crowd. And then all of the off-site family crafternoon programs that we put on in October filled. So that's good news for that department. In programs and services, we are seeing participation increase. We are seeing increasing numbers of facility rentals. We are seeing trips and tours get fully populated with wait lists. Hamilton was a huge success of that. A lot of our youth programming, particularly things that are supporting socialization and education kinds of workshops, are going quite well. We have started beta testing the new website, and I expect all of you to be able to look at it in November or December. We'll set up a viewing experience and get your feedback for that. The winter spring guide should hit mailboxes mid-November. Lisa mentioned Mark Boucher's award, which is really a testament to his dedication to teaching and his artistic excellence. We are in the midst of filling 4 full-time positions with benefits, 5 if you count the customer service vacancy we just filled, and many part-time positions. So we are really up to our eyeballs in the hiring process. And despite being on vacation and in a delightful place, I did actually attend meetings. I think it was very impressive to the Silver Line expansion planning group that I was up at 7 o'clock Hawaii time for a 1 o'clock p.m. meeting to plan that event. So I forwarded the invitation to the Silver Line expansion opening at 3:30 a week from tomorrow, and I hope all of you will plan to attend that. I'm sure it will be a pretty exciting event. You can tootle around on the free shuttle in Reston Town Center. They're excited about launching that.
Actually, I found an article about when they had the groundbreaking for Reston Station, because I remember attending that.
Yeah.
And in there was a video, and it was like an interview with Bob Simon. And as they're having the interview with Bob Simon, like, you know, at the location, kind of a little sort of in the background, sort of a photo bomb, but a video bomb, Maggie Parker. So it was, but yeah, it'll be great to see this, because that's kind of the alpha, and now this will be the omega. You know, from the groundbreaking at Reston Station to now opening Town Center Station is going to be great when we're
It's going to be great. And, you know, Maggie also actually was very involved before she left to run Partnership Reston with the Loudoun County development of rail to Dulles political support. very exciting.
So I'm looking forward to that. By the way, in your director's report, I'm really appreciative of the one paragraph, the last one under equity, that was both about it was exclusively about the Healthy Joints Workshop and the Rest and Baby Expo. Like, that's a really strong paragraph. Like, that's sort of it gets to the breadth of our offerings to the community.
Service to all ages.
Yeah.
Talk about the alpha and omega.
That's
Or
what
the
that's
omega.
Well, that's the omega to alpha, in that case, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. We have an amazing staff. Very creative people. Very, very community focused.
And I didn't remember the date, the slow
So
hustle.
hustle, that's our rewrite.
Yeah, the slow hustle and Josh Blue.
Yeah?
Was in there. That was amazing. Josh Blue, nobody can tell any Josh Blue jokes because they won't make sense.
Well, unless you have CP.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're telling some of his jokes, it's just like,
Yeah, it doesn't work. All right.
no, it doesn't work.
So it was a
But
very
they got
strong
good-
month for our programs and services.
Yeah. But he was extremely funny, and the slow hustle,
It's great, yeah.
that was great. But it was great that we had lines to buy the books and get them signed that night. We're getting back to normal, folks. I'm not, but the rest of the world is. Okay, thank you for that report. Next, is there any seasoned business?
Prior, maybe continuing.
Prior and continue.
Is there any continuing business? Any new business? I would say in the new business is to notice the dates down there, the reminders.
Yeah, November will be busy.
Yeah.
For those of you who are interested, the service for Lynn Lilienthal, the celebration of her life, is this Saturday at 2 o'clock, and it's being held here in the community room. And the Lilienthals have been very grateful for the support that the RCC facilities team has given.
Oh, by the way, actually, and I'm sorry, just on the that line, I know that Doug Boucher conveyed his thanks for the support for the Core Foundation Gala. What was not included there, and I don't think I actually put it in an email, so I wanted to say it to you. At one point, someone had spilled a drink, and I went and told someone at the front desk, and just the responsiveness of the folks at the front desk, the facility staff that came over with a mop right away and got it all cleaned up. Was like, it's, to me, it's the little things as well. Like, you know, the big stuff and having the sound and the AV all set up is great, but that type of little thing is also very appreciated.
Yeah. Well, it's a testament to the agency values.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any more words they need to put on us tonight? Or have you to hold them until next meeting?
Real quick, I want to say one quick thing, just because you mentioned a little bit with the equity. I always love that, but I think that it was nice to attend both those events, but it's also neat to see how the interaction happens in Reston. But I thought that both the artists, one being a writer and the other one being a comedian, just really kind of, I think, touches people in a way that you don't get often. And I think the slow hustle was really interesting to watch. And the question and answer period afterwards, I just felt some of the questions that come up sometimes when someone is the expert, we Restonians often feel we know more. So it was very important, I thought for me, very important to just to say a statement at the end about how how knowledgeable the artist was who was in that docuseries, and they asked him, and you need to listen to what he's saying instead of telling him what he should know. So it was I was like, nah, we're not gonna end on that. So that's why I made a statement. But I just thought it was important to say that sometimes because we're in this very great space, we think we know more sometimes than the artists. And so sometimes it's better just listen.
Yeah.
And we had an interesting, as we were standing in the line, there was another author who was in the line who grew up in Columbia.
Huh?
So the three of us had a nice little conversation about that. Okay, anything else you want to say, Shane?
No, I don't have anything to add right
Okay, you're like my.
now. I attended some events, but that was in the beginning of the board meeting. I wasn't
There you go.
here yet.
My girlfriend has a daughter who is some special physicist. I don't know. She writes these papers and whatever, but she didn't speak until she was 4. And one day she said, "Could you pass the salt?" Everybody thought he thought she was autistic. She said, "No, everything was fine until then."
That sounds like, that's what Einstein did. They was like, what's wrong with you? And he was like,
Yes.
Nothing to say.
no, he said nothing to say. Everything was fine up until the soup was cold.
Yeah.
Okay, make sure you go out and vote. Vote early, but not often.
Oh,
Right.
Just once.
good to know.
Yes, do that, okay.
Only one.
The meeting of November 7th, 2022 is now called, we will now be adjourned.